Primitive, crude, insulting. The alien commander's voice dripped with disdain as he held up a human rifle, examining it like one would a piece of trash. This is what they think will stop us? The Galactic Alliance's command tent erupted in laughter. Around the room stood the most advanced military minds in the known galaxy, representing species with centuries of technological and strategic superiority. Their polished armor and glowing tactical displays contrasted sharply with the weapon in the commander's hands, a simple, human-made sniper rifle. Commander Drock, a towering reptilian with scales like obsidian, slammed the rifle onto the table. Let this serve as a reminder, soldiers. These humans are nothing. Their weapons, their tactics, their spirit, pathetic. We will march through their jungles and claim this planet by nightfall. A murmur of approval rippled through the ranks. Drax's lieutenant, a wiry insectoid named Threx, chittered in agreement. "Perhaps they've sent us a challenge after all," he sneered, his mandibles clicking. "Finding them will be the only sport in this campaign." But not everyone in the tent was laughing. A junior officer, smaller and less armored, shifted uneasily. "Commander, the resistance has been persistent," he said hesitantly. "Several squads reported ambushes. Perhaps we should—" "Enough!" Drock's growl silenced the officer. "What ambushes? A few scratches on our shields. Their bullets bounce off us like rain on stone. Persistence is not a strategy. It is desperation." The tent fell silent as the commander's eyes narrowed. "Tonight, we show these creatures what true power looks like. Prepare the troops." The jungle loomed ahead, dense and impenetrable, its canopy casting dappled shadows across the alien battalion. The Galactic Alliance's soldiers moved forward in perfect formation. Their advanced sensors shimmered faintly around them. Energy shields shimmered faintly around them, a constant reminder of their technological superiority. "Zone 4 secure," a soldier reported through the comms. "Zone 5 clear, no signs of resistance." The reports flowed in steadily, each one confirming Drax's belief in their invincibility. As the commander marched at the center of his forces, he felt a surge of pride. The humans had fled like cowards, leaving nothing but abandoned villages and shattered defenses in their wake. Yet the jungle was alive in ways the aliens didn't understand. It whispered of hidden dangers, its stillness broken only by the rustle of leaves and the distant calls of unseen creatures. At the rear of the formation, a pair of soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. "Feels too quiet," one muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. "Quiet is good," his companion replied, though his grip on his plasma rifle tightened. Their unease was well-founded. High above them, concealed among the branches, a lone figure watched through a rifle scope. His breathing was slow, controlled, the very picture of discipline. The Marine's ghillie suit blended perfectly with the foliage, rendering him invisible to even the most advanced sensors. He didn't fire. Not yet. The aliens were marching into the heart of the jungle, deeper into territory he had spent weeks preparing. Every step they took brought them closer to the kill zone. Hours passed, the sun sinking lower as shadows stretched across the jungle floor. The alien soldiers grew restless, their initial confidence giving way to irritation. "This is pointless," Threx hissed, his mandibles twitching. "We've seen no resistance for hours. The humans have abandoned this area." Drax snarled in response. "The humans are weak, but they're not fools. They're here, hiding, waiting for us to falter. Keep your guard up." Despite his words, the commander felt a flicker of doubt. The jungle seemed to close in around them, its oppressive heat and humidity gnawing at his soldiers' morale. Even their advanced armor couldn't fully counteract the effects. Then the silence was broken. A single gunshot echoed through the trees, sharp and precise. The soldier in the vanguard crumpled to the ground, his energy shield flickering briefly before failing entirely. "Contact!" shouted Threx, his voice high with alarm. Soldiers scrambled for cover, their advanced sensors whirring to life. Yet no enemy appeared. No movement betrayed the sniper's location. Drock's eyes narrowed as he surveyed the scene. "Find him," he growled. "Now." The soldiers fanned out, their movements cautious and deliberate. But the Marine was already gone, his position abandoned the moment he fired. He moved like a shadow through the jungle, leaving no trace behind. From his new perch he observed the chaos below. The aliens' shields were impressive, but they weren't infallible. His custom rounds, designed to penetrate even the toughest defenses, had proven that. For the first time, the aliens felt fear. Drax's voice boomed over the comms. "This changes nothing. Push forward. We will flush this insect out and crush him." But as night fell, the jungle itself seemed to rise against them. Every rustle of leaves, every distant cry of an animal sent the soldiers into a frenzy. And somewhere in the darkness, the Marine prepared his next shot. The first shot had shattered more than the shield of its victim. It had cracked the illusion of invulnerability that the Galactic Alliance soldiers carried with them. Now, every shadow seemed alive, every sound a threat. "He's toying with us," Threx hissed, his mandibles twitching erratically. The insectoid lieutenant's compound eyes darted around the jungle, searching for an enemy he couldn't see. "Hold your position," Commander Drac barked, his patience wearing thin. "He's one soldier. One. We are the Galactic Alliance. Remember your training and find him." But training meant little against an invisible enemy. The sniper hadn't fired again, but his presence was suffocating. For hours, the soldiers trudged deeper into the jungle, their movements erratic and defensive. The once disciplined formation had devolved into small, fragmented groups, each more concerned with survival than strategy. From high in the canopy, the Marine watched it all unfold. He adjusted his position silently, his every movement deliberate and calculated. The alien soldiers were predictable, their over-reliance on technology leaving them vulnerable to the chaotic, organic environment of the jungle. He scanned the terrain through his scope, picking his next target. A patrol of 3 soldiers moved cautiously below, their plasma rifles scanning the undergrowth. One of them, a hulking, armored brute, lagged behind, his focus more on complaining than vigilance. The Marine exhaled slowly. Patience, precision. 1 shot, 1 kill. The crack of his rifle echoed through the jungle, and the brute collapsed mid-sentence, his shield useless against the custom round. The other 2 soldiers panicked, firing wildly into the trees. He was already gone. The Marine's attacks were relentless, not in frequency but in psychological impact. Each shot was a calculated blow, not just to the body but to the morale of the entire battalion. The alien's once dominant aura had eroded into paranoia. "Commander," Threx stammered as he crouched behind a boulder, "we can't fight what we can't see. He's moving faster than we can react. We need to retreat and regroup." "Retreat?" Drock growled, his eyes blazing with fury. "You would have us flee from a single human? No. We press on. If you cannot handle this, I will lead the hunt myself." Despite his bravado, Drac couldn't deny the tension in the air. His soldiers were unraveling, their fear palpable. The Marine exploited this mercilessly. He began leaving behind small signs of his presence, a shell casing gleaming in the moonlight, a knife embedded in a tree trunk, a crude carving that read, "Still here." The messages weren't just taunts, they were declarations. Each one whispered a simple truth. "You're in my territory now." Night fell, and with it came a new wave of terror. The jungle came alive with sounds, the chirping of nocturnal creatures, the rustling of leaves, the distant howl of some unknown predator. Every noise felt amplified, each one a potential signal of the sniper's location. The alien soldiers set up a perimeter, their energy shields glowing faintly in the darkness. Drac walked the line, barking orders to restore discipline. "Stay alert. He's no ghost. He's flesh and blood, and flesh bleeds." But the Marine had no intention of engaging them directly. He had already chosen his next position, a vantage point overlooking the camp. From there, he observed their routines, cataloging weaknesses, noting the patterns of the sentries. His training had taught him that a sniper's greatest weapon wasn't the rifle, it was time. The patience to wait for the perfect shot, the discipline to hold fire until the moment was right, were skills no technology could replicate. Hours passed before he struck again. This time, his target was a high-ranking officer who had ventured too close to the edge of the camp. The shot was clean, the officer dropping instantly, his shield offering no protection. The camp exploded into chaos. Soldiers scrambled for cover, firing blindly into the trees. Drones were deployed, their sensors scouring the jungle, but the thick canopy disrupted their signals. "He's just one man," Drac roared, his voice rising above the commotion. "Find him!" The Marine watched through his scope, unflinching. The chaos below was his symphony, each movement orchestrated by his actions. As the soldiers fell deeper into disarray, the Marine took a moment to reflect. He wasn't here for glory or revenge. His mission was simple: ensure Earth's survival by breaking the enemy's will to fight. And he was succeeding. By dawn, the once proud battalion was a shadow of its former self. Exhausted, demoralized, and out of options, the soldiers had stopped advancing. Drake stood in the center of the camp, his fists clenched in frustration. "Enough of this game," he growled. "We will flush him out. Prepare the decoys. If he wants a challenge, we'll give him one." The Marine observed the preparations with a calm, calculating gaze. The aliens thought they were setting a trap, but they were only digging themselves deeper into his. "Commander, the decoys are ready," Thrax reported, his voice trembling despite his efforts to maintain composure. The insectoid's mandibles quivered as he pointed to the holographic projections flickering in the dense jungle. Each one mimicked the appearance of a higher-ranking officer, programmed to move sporadically and emit false heat signatures. Drac sneered, his sharp teeth glinting in the dim light. "Let's see if this human is as clever as they say. He cannot resist a target this enticing." The soldiers moved into defensive positions, their energy shields forming a glowing perimeter. Drones hovered above, their sensors primed to detect any movement. Yet, beneath the bravado, unease gnawed at the troops. They knew, deep down, that they were playing the sniper's game. From his perch high above the camp, the Marine surveyed the scene. The decoys were impressive, their holographic projections nearly indistinguishable from real soldiers. Nearly. But they couldn't mimic subtle human behaviors. The weight of a step, the sway of a head, the slight shift of a weapon. The Marine smirked. "Nice try, lizards." He adjusted his scope, focusing on the real targets. The decoys were a distraction, but the soldiers, nervous and exhausted, were the true weak points. A good sniper knew that fear was just as potent a weapon as any bullet. So the first shot rang out, shattering the tense silence. A soldier collapsed, his shield fizzling uselessly. The camp erupted into chaos once more. Soldiers firing wildly at shadows. "Huh? He's not targeting the decoys," Threx shouted, panic edging into his voice. "Hold your ground," Jack bellowed, his rage boiling over. "Do not break formation." The Marine fired again, this time disabling one of the drones. The device spun wildly before crashing into the jungle floor, its sensors sparking. The loss of their aerial advantage further unbalanced the troops, their movements becoming erratic. The sniper's strategy was clear: dismantle the enemy's confidence piece by piece.
"Deploy the heavy units." Drac roared, his patience gone. Massive war droids stomped forward, their towering forms bristling with weaponry. These mechanical behemoths were designed for sieges, their armor impervious to most conventional attacks. From his vantage point, the Marine watched the machines with a calm detachment. They were formidable, yes, but also predictable. Their size made them slow, their advanced targeting systems susceptible to the dense jungle's interference. He shifted his aim, targeting a narrow joint in the lead droid's armor. One breath, one shot. The bullet pierced the joint, severing critical hydraulics. The droid froze mid-step before collapsing, its massive frame crashing into the trees. The aliens hesitated, their confidence wavering yet again. Drac, however, refused to admit defeat. "Enough of this coward's game," he snarled, his voice echoing through the jungle. He grabbed a plasma cannon from a nearby soldier and stormed into the undergrowth, determined to hunt the sniper himself. "Commander, wait!" Threx called after him. But Drac was already gone, his hulking form disappearing into the shadows. The Marine watched the scene unfold through his scope, his expression unreadable. He adjusted his position, knowing that Drac's arrogance would be his undoing. As the alien commander trudged deeper into the jungle, he shouted, "Show yourself human. Face me, if you dare." The Marine obliged. A single shot rang out, precise and deafening. Drac stumbled, his shield flaring briefly before failing. The plasma cannon slipped from his claws as he collapsed to his knees. The sniper didn't kill him outright. Not yet. Instead, he stepped out of the shadows, his figure emerging from the jungle like a phantom. Clad in his ghillie suit, his rifle still trained on the alien, he was the embodiment of discipline and lethality. Drac's eyes widened, his arrogance replaced by a flicker of fear. You're just one man," he rasped, his voice trembling. The Marine tilted his head, his voice cold and steady. "One man is all it takes." Without another word, he fired the final shot. Drac fell, his once commanding presence reduced to a lifeless heap. The rest of the battalion crumbled after their leader's death. Demoralized and disorganized, they retreated, abandoning their mission entirely. The jungle, once a symbol of their dominance, had become a graveyard for their pride. The Marine watched them flee, his expression unreadable. He didn't celebrate or gloat. This was simply another mission, another victory for Earth's survival. As the jungle returned to silence, he packed his gear and disappeared into the shadows, leaving no trace behind. For the Galactic Alliance, the lesson was clear. Humanity's strength wasn't in numbers or technology. It was in the unyielding resolve of individuals who refused to be conquered. They mocked human weapons, but they'll never forget the man who wielded them.